What are healthy fats? Dietary fat is often villainized in health blogs, blaming all fat for causing unhealthy bodies. But there are actually 4 different types of dietary fat, in different ways that they affect your body. Saturated fats are typically solid at room temperature, like butter or animal fat. This is because fat molecules are saturated with hydrogen molecules. Saturated fats are associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, or heart diseases. Unsaturated fats are usually liquid at room temperature, like vegetable oil. They can also be found in avocados and nuts. Unsaturated fats are associated with a decreased risk of cardiovascular disease. Within the category of unsaturated fatty acids, there are omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. These are also known as essential fatty acids because they serve important cellular functions and cannot be produced by our bodies. Omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids can be found in fatty fish like salmon and soybeans. Finally, trans fat can either be naturally occurring or artificial. Animals produce small quantities of trans fat, which may be found in animal products like milk or meat. But artificial trans fat is created by adding hydrogen to liquid vegetable oils to make them more solid. Trans fat is usually labeled on processed foods as partially hydrogenated oil, so keep an eye out for this in the ingredients list on your food. Trans fat is associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease and increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. These fats can be found in most processed foods, like donuts, margarine, and French fries. The consumption of fatty acids is often associated with cardiovascular diseases. But why is that? Many heart-related illnesses result from clogged arteries. Arteries are blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart to the rest of the body. Cholesterol, fatty substances, cellular waste products, calcium, and fibrin, which is a clotting material found in the blood, can accumulate over time in the arteries, causing the diameter of the artery to decrease. This forces the heart to work harder to push the same amount of blood through your arteries, resulting in higher blood pressure and an extra strain on your heart. It is recommended by the Department of Public Health that your total fat intake should be 20 to 35% of your total daily caloric intake. This is about 44 to 77 grams of fat per day with a 2,000 calorie diet. But it's helpful to visualize how much fat is actually in your diet by converting grams to teaspoons. In this activity sheet in your Lesson 4 packet, there are instructions on how to convert grams to teaspoons to see how much fat you may be eating. First, add up your total grams of fat in your meal. Then, divide by 5 to get your teaspoon total. This worksheet is meant to increase your mindfulness of how much fat may secretly be in the foods that you are eating, but it is important to focus on the types of fat that you are eating. Next, we're going to take a look at our food safety step number 3, cooking at safe temperatures. You can't tell if a food is done simply by looking at it, so use a food thermometer to be sure. The USDA recommends the following minimum safe internal temperatures: 145 degrees with a 3-minute rest time for steak, roast, and chops of beef, pork, veal, or lamb. 145 degrees Fahrenheit for fish. 160 degrees Fahrenheit for ground beef, pork, veal, or lamb, and for egg dishes like quiche. 165 degrees Fahrenheit for turkey, chicken, and duck, whether whole, pieces, or ground. If you have a thermometer, it's also important to check that its measurements are actually accurate. You can either use a boiling water method or ice method, but the ice method is generally more accurate. Did you know that the boiling point of water changes based on altitude? As altitude increases, the atmospheric pressure pushing down on water decreases, allowing the water to boil at lower temperatures. For example, the boiling point at sea level is 212 degrees Fahrenheit, while in Denver, Colorado, it's around 202 degrees Fahrenheit. So unless you know your altitude's boiling point temperature, the ice water method is more reliable. So step 1 is to fill a container completely to the top with ice cubes. Then fill the container with cold water about 1/2 inch below the top of the ice. Step 2 is to insert the thermometer stem or probe about 2 inches into the ice water, making sure that it does not touch the container itself. Step 3, slowly swirl the thermometer in the ice water for about 15 seconds. It should read 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. If your digital thermometer is inaccurate, try using its reset button or calibration feature. If you have an inaccurate manual thermometer, it might have a calibration dial that you can turn until the thermometer reads 32 degrees Fahrenheit when inserted in the ice bath. If those options don't work, you can either replace your thermometer or simply take note of how many degrees off it is, and simply add or subtract the amount of degrees when taking temperatures of your food items. So why is it important that we take this extra step of using a food thermometer? Most of us simply slice our pieces of meat or fish open while they're cooking to check if the color looks, quote-unquote, done. But this isn't a reliable method. If you're in low lighting or cooking on a grill, it can be difficult to gauge if the food is actually ready. Additionally, by slicing the meat open, you're losing some of the juice and flavors that are sealed within it, resulting in dry and bland food. So here are a few tips on how to properly use a meat thermometer. Place the thermometer in the meat while it's still cooking in the pan, oven, or grill. Don't try to take the meat off of the heat and then take its temperature. This will result in an inaccurate reading. Then you want to also measure in the thickest part of the meat. This is the section that will take the longest to cook, so it is important to base the cooking time off of that area. Remember to insert the thermometer so it is in the center of the meat without hitting any fat or bones. But if you're cooking thin items like chops or hamburger patties, insert the thermometer sideways for the best reading. Next, we are going to take a look at how to steam vegetables. Steaming is one of the healthiest ways to cook vegetables to keep their nutrients. Vitamins are easily destroyed when you boil vegetables for a long period of time. In comparison, steaming uses the steam from boiling water to cook the food, not the water directly. A steamer basket is a cheap way to steam food. Fill the pot with enough water so that it just barely reaches the bottom of the colander or steamer basket. Once the water comes to a boil, add vegetables and cover. You want to make sure that you steam vegetables depending on the type of vegetable and its thickness. For example, you want to steam peas for only 3 minutes. For asparagus, steam them for 4 minutes if thin, but add an extra minute or 2 if they are thicker spears. Broccoli and green beans you'll steam for 5 minutes. Steam your carrots, cauliflower, and zucchini for 6 to 7 minutes. And finally, steam Brussels sprouts for 10 minutes. Take the vegetables off the burner when they are at your preferred softness. If you like, immediately after steaming, have a colander of ice or a bowl of water ready to plunge or shock your cooked vegetables. This will stop the cooking process so your vegetables stay nice and crunchy. An activity you can do at home with your family or housemates is the My Journey to Healthy Eating worksheet. It will help you take stock of the fat content of foods already in your home and help you set goals for how to apply the lessons about fat that we learned today. Next up is our weekly movement activity. Our intern is again going to be sharing a dance movement from her Philippines dance troupe. So let's take a look and follow along.
Hi, my My name is Sarang. I'm a current UCLA student, and I'm involved with the Samahang Filipino Cultural Night. I'm also an intern for the Asian Pacific Islander Forward Movement, specifically with the HEAL project. Today, I'll be teaching about Uyaoy from the Ifugao tribe of the Cordillera region in the Philippines. Uyaoy is actually the name of a kanyao, which is kind of like a feast or celebration. So the dance itself is not necessarily named Uyaoy, but this is the dance that they would perform at the Uyaoy kanyao. Uyaoy celebrates a chief's social status and also his affinity to the earth. When this dance is performed, it's typically a koba dance, meaning that there are male part and a female part. So today I'm going to be teaching you the female part of the dance according to what I have learned. I want to include a quick disclaimer about indigenous dances. So these indigenous dances that come from the Philippines are often very sacred to the people or tribes which they originate from. And so while I personally have learned about these dances a little bit, I definitely do not know enough to do them justice. And so the way that I'm teaching you these movements may be different than how they are actually performed, so please don't take my word as law. I am just teaching you based on my own personal experience, but if you are able to find a family member or find some other informational, educational resources about indigenous dances like this Uyaoy dance, then definitely seek those out, and yeah, let's have fun learning. Getting into the first sequence, follow along as if I'm your mirror. So starting with the legs, start by taking 2 steps with your right leg. Now do the same on your left leg. And again on your right leg. And again on your left. Now putting together the steps on both legs and putting them together consecutively, it'll look like this. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Great! So now that we know the legs, we're going to add in our arms. So you want to have your hands at your hip level. So I start by placing my hands palms up on my hips. And you see there's a little bit of a bend in my elbow. Then I'm going to close my fingers. But my thumbs are kind of sticking out. And now every time you hop, your elbows are going to kind of push in towards each other behind your back. And your elbows are going to come in every time you step. So when you do the 2 steps on the right, and when you do the 2 steps on the left, your elbows will come straight in every time. Putting them together, it'll look like this from the front. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. It'll feel pretty funny at first, but if you keep practicing, you'll get it. Now, we're going to learn the second sequence. So starting again with the legs, we're going to take alternating steps, meaning that we're going to take 1 step with the right and 1 step with the left. Now you can see here I'm taking little steps and I'm kind of sitting more on my right, back into my right hip than I am on my left hip. So now that we got the legs, I'll show you the arms. So my arms are starting straight out to our left side, and my right arm is going to come overhead like that. Then my wrists are going to come up, and I'm going to bring my right arm back, and my wrists are going to come up again. One more time. 1, 2, 3, up on 4, and 5, 6, 7, up on 8. So this motion kind of replicates the path that the sun takes throughout the day. At the same time, it kind of makes you look like a bird. Putting everything together, over and wrist, back over and wrists. A little faster. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Great job! Now we're going to learn the third and final sequence. The legs are going to be the same movement as the second sequence. So just a refresher, it looks like this, taking alternating steps. However, the arm motions are going to be different. This time we're going to start with them over our head. It looks a little similar to the cubrado that we learned with Jota Paragua, but our right arm is going to come down and then come back up. And down and back up. So putting the leg movement together with the arm movement. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now a little bit faster. And 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
The last thing that we're going to cover today is how to make avocado tortilla soup. So let's follow along with the recipe made by one of our health educators.
Hey there, good to see you again. It's Nola, and today we're making avocado tortilla soup. We'll need chicken broth, creamy tomato soup, avocado, cilantro, and tortilla chips. I'll go in with a few spices later, but for right now, sit tight. Step 1, we're going to have to heat up a pan. Don't have it be too shallow. We need it to have a little bit of depth. I'm going to chop up some cilantro, just inhale the beautiful fresh flavors of it. Step 2, add your chicken broth. Go ahead and add the full box. I believe it calls for at least 32 ounces of chicken broth, so I did buy a smaller guy on the side, but decided to omit that for this recipe because I wanted to go ahead and add our tomato soup. We didn't want it to overflow and create a huge mess. So this one has pretty clean ingredients, has a little bit of cream in it to have that creamy-like texture. Then we go in with that cilantro that we chopped up earlier. Bam. Next, we're gonna add about 3 tablespoons of chopped up minced garlic. Again, I have this big old pre-made mix guy from Costco. If you have a garlic mincer at home, feel free to use it. And then we'll top it off with some black pepper. Give it a gentle stir, and then we're gonna set a timer for 10 minutes. Like I said, when you have any wait time available, clean up because it makes your life easier. It's a lot less stress. I'm gonna go ahead and clean whatever dishes I have in this 10 minutes. And behold, your soup timer will go off and it'll be nice and heated. So what we're gonna do next is add a few more spices, totally optional. I just feel like it needs a tad more flavor. It doesn't need to be salty, it just needs to be simple. So I'll show you some of my go-tos in just a moment. First is organic no salt seasoning. That was a little bit too much on my end, complete accident. I went in with some cayenne pepper because I like spicy. And then just a touch of olive oil because I felt like our mixture was a little bit more on the watery end. I feel like it helps thicken it just a smidge. And then some red chili flakes. Last but not least, we need some type of herb, so I went in with oregano. Gentle stir. And we're gonna go ahead and transfer it into a vessel that helps us blend this beautiful mixture together. Learn from my mistake. Do not make a mess like I did right here. It's better to do it over the sink. So I did another gentle stir and found a bowl that has a pour spout on the side. Before you proceed to blending, make sure you just clean off whatever mess you make. Go ahead and transfer it into your blender container. You might need to rinse your sink just a little bit more, and then we're gonna go ahead and blend this bad boy. Make sure you seal it nice and tight. I've blended things before and it's exploded everywhere. Doesn't take too long, especially if your blender is high power. Most likely less than a minute, then you take it back out again. And then we'll finish up with our garnish. On a cutting board, get avocado and lime ready to go. One of my good friends, we worked at Subway together. The way you're able to know if avocado is nice and ripe is that you can take off the stem, if there is a stem available. Look at that gorgeous green color. I like to chop it like a porcupine like that. And then get 1 lime half. Set those 2 on the side. I most likely will add more avocado just because that's more of my flavor. Crush up some tortilla chips. In another bowl, go ahead and, or a small one that you're ready to eat. Not eat the bowl, you know what I mean. Eat the stuff in the bowl. Pour your soup mixture and add your avocado. I went ahead and did 1 full avocado. That's what the recipe calls for. I just cut the half out as a demonstration. There's my other one right here. Squeeze lime, add your tortilla chips, red chili flakes, and then some cilantro. And here we are. We have our avocado cilantro soup. Enjoy, everybody. So you could have just stopped the video earlier. I just wanted to show you a little hearty side that you can add either in the soup or put to the side of the soup. We just saute simple ingredients like tomato, bell pepper, onion, frozen corn, and garlic. Add simple seasonings like roasted red pepper and basil. Go in with just a smidge of salt, not too much, because there's plenty of savory flavors coming in from our chicken broth. And then we're gonna go in with some quinoa and black beans. Simply mix and serve, and that's pretty much it. Okay, now we're officially done. See you next week, folks.